All right, let's look at the homework 7-6 on potential energy diagrams. And I'm just going to go over a few to explain it. And you really need to read the notes over. I tried to do a video, but this is something we really have to practice. So let's look at number 5 first. Even though it's a multiple choice, this one will help. It says, as the particle moves along the x-axis, so this is potential energy, it is acted upon by a conservative force. The potential energy is shown below. So because it's a conservative force, we don't have friction or external force or anything like that. The potential energy is shown as a function of the coordinate x of the particle. Rank the labeled regions according to the magnitude. So even when you're taking the AP exam, you're going to look at key words. So even though we want to find the force, the magnitude just means how much. That means the direction doesn't matter, from least to greatest. So this is the type of thing on an AP exam where you would get it wrong because you might take the magnitude into consideration. So the first thing you need to know is on a potential energy versus x graph, we need to know that the force is equal to the negative slope of the u versus x plot. Okay. So again, magnitude, that just, whether it's positive or negative doesn't matter in this case. So what I would do is I would do each section at a time, because we're going from A to B, and stuff like that. So this is A to B, then B to C, and then C to D. So from A to B, remember, force is equal to the negative slope. So again, we know stuff about slopes. The steeper the slope, the greater the magnitude. So if we look from A to B, this is A to B is going to be a negative. A to B is a negative slope. Because remember, a positive slope goes like this. So it's a negative slope, which means it's positive force. Then from B to C, it's 0, so that's easy. And then from C to D, remember, the force is the negative slope. From C to D, it's a positive slope. So it's going to be a negative, and then I have a positive. Well, that's going to be a negative. So now, this one's 0, so it just says the magnitude, so I don't care about the other stuff. So now I'm going to look which is steeper, right? The steeper the slope, the greater it is. So I see that CD is a lot steeper than AB. So the answer is going to be D. Because BC is 0, because it says magnitude. So this is 0. Then this one is not as steep, so it's going to be AB. And then this one's the steepest, so it's going to be CD. That was fun. Okay, now we're going to look at number 6. So this one has a bunch of different graphs. Here, it has the U versus X graph, and then it wants to show the corresponding F versus X graph. So remember when we had like position, velocity, and acceleration, and you had to go from one graph to another? So this is the type of thing they might have like on a multiple choice type question. So what I would do is I would pick, the one thing we know is that the force is equal to the negative slope. So I'm going to break it up into 3 points. So I would do this as point 1, point 2, and point 3. Okay? So if I look at, what does this question even ask? Oh, which graph represents the F versus X? So here, remember that at here, we have a negative slope. So the force is equal to the negative slope. So from at this point, point 1, it's a negative slope, so F is positive. Now over here at 2, the slope, remember F is the negative slope, but that's just 0, so it's negative 0, which is just 0. And then up here, F is equal to the negative slope, so it's negative, and this slope here is going to be positive, So that's negative F. So now I'm going to look at the corresponding F versus X ones and say, okay, for the first part, which one starts off as positive F, then 0, and then negative F? So this is positive F, 0, and negative X. And that's it. So again, this is a type of thing that maybe you would have like as a multiple choice type question. But you need to know that the force is the negative slope of the U versus X graph. So the problem is they actually test this. I've seen a couple of FRQs with this. And once in a while and if you don't teach this, then you would have no clue. So this is the key right here on how to do these. But they're also going to ask you stuff about like stable equilibrium and all that stuff. So let's look at the back. Because there was an FRQ recently like that, but I don't remember which one. So you're going to have your minimum and maximum. So all the minimums and maximums occur when the force is 0. So the force is only going to be 0 like somewhere here or somewhere here. Okay? So like for number 7, it says the diagram shows a plot of the potential energy as a function of x for a particle moving along the x-axis. The points of stable equilibrium are, so when the force is 0, so stable equilibrium points are at the minimum. So that's for stable. So equilibrium is when the force is 0, but this says stable equilibrium. So stable equilibrium is the minimum, so that's going to be right there. So that's answer B. Then it says the number 8, it's the same graph, and now it says unstable equilibrium. So this is the type of thing, whether it's an FRQ or this is just like an easy multiple choice question, because if you understand these little things, which are basically things you have to memorize, and you can go through the notes and read all the other stuff about the ifs, the ands, and the whys, but unstable equilibrium is going to be your maximum. Stable is going to be your minimum. So if you know that this is like a 5 or 10 second question, all you do is look at the graph. Well, here's the top, and that's going to be unstable because that's going to be the maximum. So that answer is going to be D. Number 9 says, where is it neutral? Hey, this homework isn't long enough. Where is it neutral equilibrium? So neutral, so these are all the key words. Neutral equilibrium is where the mechanical energy is equal to the potential energy, which means it's stationary and there's no kinetic energy. So this is going to be at C. This one's for Cody. Look. Guess what you have to do? Calculus. So I'll let you do that. And this one's also calculus. This should say magnitude typo. And then you guys can do this one. So in this graph, you're going to have to identify like stable, unstable, neutral. Then they want you to sketch the curve for the F versus X. So that would almost be like an FRQ type problem, something like that. And before we review for the test, I'll find some of those for us to practice. And that's it.